Israel, right? Oftentimes when we talk about foreign aid that goes to Israel, at this point, I believe it's about, $4 billion a year, on top of all of the military aid that we've been pumping into Israel over the last 2 years. I mean, it's unacceptable to me that we're doing that. And in the backdrop of that, you have the United States Congress cutting $1.1 trillion to Medicaid. Really? That's the problem? That's where we need to cut funding from? By the way, also cutting funding to food assistance.
So that set might look familiar. I assume that person does, because of course that's our Anna Kasparian, who went on Tucker Carlson's show. That clip was from just the first few minutes of the interview. She's already hitting Trump on the spending bill, the completely out of whack economic priorities of the Republicans in Congress and in the White House. And she did have a lot more to say about the budget bill. We're gonna get to that shortly, but Cenk, what was your immediate reaction when you saw her appearance?
Yeah, so I loved it. And so, look, guys, I'll tell you the most animating thing for me, and then I'll tell you why it was also good for other reasons. For me, I'm obsessed with ending the genocide in Gaza, and so I will take any ally that's going to help me end the genocide in Gaza. So if you say I shouldn't and I'm morally impure, no problem. Okay, then I'm impure. Okay. And if you say, okay, I won't deal with Tucker, that's going to keep me pure. Great, then you're pure. No problem. We agree. Okay, but I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to end that genocide. And Tucker is as important an ally as there is in that, because the current president is not a Democrat, is not a left winger. The current president is a right winger. His name is Donald Trump. We do not affect his base. Tucker Carlson definitely affects his base. Okay, so if you want to move Trump, you can go on. In fact, today I went on a show where we were supposed to debate, but we largely 98% agreed with Richard Wolff, who's a really interesting professor, who's advocates for some form of Marxism, communism, etc. Okay, I'm a capitalist, and we had this super interesting conversation. We'll put it up on tyt.com/press. We'll also put this up on tyt.com/press. Okay, so. I don't care if you're super left, super right, max this or that. If we're say, let's end this genocide, I'm gonna ask for your help. But if you say, hey, who's more likely to move Trump on this issue? Professor Wolff that I talked to today, or Tucker Carlson, who Anna talked to? Of course it's Tucker, of course it is. There isn't any communist professor who's gonna move Donald Trump. Tucker has a shot at it. And if you say it's not a good enough shot, good, I'll take it. I don't care if it's a 1% shot, I'll take it. Then on top of that, she's telling everybody that they were wrong to cut Medicaid, they were wrong to cut SNAP. And then the other major issue that we agree on, the Epstein files. Why isn't it released? Why isn't it released? Pressure from the right, pressure from the left. So I thought she did a brilliant job, and I'm thrilled that she went on there.
I don't really have time for the purity test people on the left, people who call themselves leftists, feeling like, oh, they can't be unwashed and deal with a Tucker Carlson. Look, like if you've been paying attention to the direction that he's moving, it's in a more populist direction. This guy will go on his show and say that Americans shouldn't pay their credit card debt because a 25%, 30% interest rate is criminal and cruel and immoral. And that's just a disgusting way to make a living for yourself, is putting people into that kind of crushing debt than killing them with interest. The war is abroad. Like Tucker Carlson is adamantly against the Iran stuff, obviously adamant against the war, the siege in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza. Look, I'm not with Tucker Carlson on immigration. Like he's kind of a little bit, not even a little bit, he's way out there. He actually thinks Bill O'Reilly is not white enough because he's Irish Catholic, right? And Tucker's like a psychopath wasp who like believes in the true Anglo tradition of whiteness. Like, yeah, for sure, his replacement theory stuff I think is racist and disgusting, but also I think it's quite stupid and easily disproven. When you talk about replacement theory, and you got a guy like freaking Ted Cruz who's Cuban. Like, what's not white about Ted Cruz? Who the hell is he replacing, right? Like Tucker has his problems, but the idea that you won't go to somebody who's got a major audience where you could get like 2 million people on a freaking video so that Anna could espouse the views that we've been trying to push for here at TYT for decades or whatever it's been, I think you're just complete idiot if you think that's a bad idea. I'm sorry, I have no respect for that take. Like the idea that you can't talk to Tucker Carlson because he has takes that you disagree with. I think that's utterly, honestly, I don't even think it's intellectually serious, Cenk. Like the idea that we even pay lip service to these folks, I think is a mistake. They're idiots. I'm sorry.
I think it comes down to what you use the time for. I mean, if you were to go on there and just like, Tucker Carlson were talking about how awesome the camp of the saints is or whatever, then that's probably a waste of time. You shouldn't, I wouldn't do that. But if you come out guns blazing, this bill was terrible, it's gonna hurt people, even focus on the fact that it's gonna hurt MAGA. Millions of Republicans are gonna lose their health insurance. They're gonna lose their food stamps. It turns out poor white people use food stamps at very high rates. If you focus on that, and then you maybe hit him on a couple things that we already know that Donald Trump is weak on, like the fact that he lied about being anti-intervention when he comes out like declaring he's gonna invade Greenland, and obviously he bombed Iran and all that, then that could potentially be useful. You use the access provided to you to get through to that audience on areas where you think you can actually move them. And I think that she again, that's why I was stressing it was just the first few minutes, she immediately was doing that.
Yeah, so I want to go to some of the other shots real quick, the videos. But I will say, I mean, we're living super trippy times, right? So I'm a capitalist. Professor Wolf that I mentioned earlier is somewhere between socialist and Marxist. It's a little bit complicated. And then Tucker obviously is way to the right of us. And so somehow the three of us in it, or you include Anna, the four of us are magically agreeing on what the problem is. We have slightly different solutions, right? But yeah, the rich and powerful are screwing us all. And we don't run our own government. And so the fact that it's this amazing coalition that is not a coalition, but all agrees, yeah, we're definitely getting screwed, is just, I grew up in a time when people did not agree to that. I grew up in a time when mainstream media ruled everything. And they told you the status quo was great and there was no problems and the politicians were not corrupt and the donors did not rule things. So now when you've got professors on the left, me and Anna and Tucker all the way on the right, and we all agree on all of these populist things. Again, we don't have to agree on all the solutions or all the different policies. It's amazing. To John's point, Anna told a story of how the woman driving her to Tucker's interview was really mad about the so-called big beautiful bill because, we have that one? Here, let's watch that one.
One of the drivers who picked me up, Jen, she mentioned the big beautiful bill that just passed. And I can tell she identifies as Republican and she wasn't happy with that bill. And I suspected that most ordinary working class Americans, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, are not happy with that bill.
Yes.
The $1.1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, that's what she brought up. She brought that up. And I thought that was really fascinating. Now, if you talk to someone who identifies as a liberal Democrat, they'll probably think, these Republican voters, they're so greedy. All they want is tax cuts. They want to cut the social safety net. But no, actually, when it comes to ordinary people, there's a lot of agreement,
So I watched it, and that driver voted for Trump, but that's why she was so disappointed. She didn't think that her Medicaid was going to get cut, and that's what happens when you talk to people that are on the other side and you find out what's happening. Since we're in a little bit of a hurry here, I want to go to the last clip here. If you're wondering why Anna went on Carlson's show, here's your answer.
My feelings toward coming on your show went from I would never in a million years to kind of giving myself the opportunity to listen to your podcast to figure out who you really are. Because of course I had very strong thoughts about who you are.
Really?
Yeah, but I realized that it was based on clips that I would watch of you that had gone viral. And they had gone viral because they were offensive or you had said something that was
viral, like syphilis is viral.
Pretty much. I think that some of what you've been talking about lately hits at the heart of what I care most about. And that's the importance of this country representing the American people, the importance of the United States being a sovereign country.
Do you sincerely think that anybody on either side of the aisle, which doesn't even exist, but whatever, left, right, wherever, could watch what you've said for the last almost 2 hours and come away angry?
I mean, if you're Zionist, probably. This is the message that I want people who might feel angry to take away from me. I don't give a That's it.
That's got to be a meme, man. I did not expect her to end it that way. That was the end of the interview. So, yeah. And so, by the way, some of those clips that went viral about Tucker are terrible, right? But what was interesting is in that interview, he said a couple of times, I wish I hadn't said some of those things. Amazing what happens when you have a conversation. Super last one. This is Anna talking about Trump's fake populism in front of Tucker Carlson.
I don't think that Trump has carried out his promises because of, well, there's a lot of different examples I can cite, but the most recent is the so-called big, beautiful bill. Yeah, there are some provisions in there, no tax on tips. It's going to be means tested, and it also expires in 4 years, whereas the tax benefits that disproportionately benefit the wealthy are permanent. The no tax on, the elderly or Social Security, that also will expire, and it's up to a certain amount. I think it's like $6,000 if I'm not mistaken. The child tax credit, I think, was just peanuts compared to what I think this country could afford in helping families. You want to encourage people to have kids?
Yeah.
Okay, best way to do it is to create an economic situation where couples feel comfortable bringing life into this world.
I agree.
And then no tax on overtime. That's another example. That's also means tested, and that's a provision that will expire in 2028. If you really want to represent the working class, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And I haven't really seen it to the extent that Trump claimed he was going to help the working class in this country.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How many people on the right knew that the tax on tips and overtime, that the relief on that is temporary, but the tax cuts for the wealthy are permanent? Maybe a lot did, and maybe some didn't, and maybe some of those folks learned that today, right? So that's why I love the conversation overall. Last thoughts, guys.
Yeah, again, I think that if you can use that opportunity, if somebody like Anna can go in, or if Bernie Sanders did it or something like that, even people I don't necessarily always agree with, like occasionally like a Pete Buttigieg will go on Fox News or whatever and use the opportunity for what it's worth or whatever. I think that's great. I still think that Tucker Carlson is a horrible person. I think that he made himself what he wanted to be over the course of his career, chasing an audience. He told them what he thought they wanted to hear. I think that he also he didn't tell them stuff that he knew to be true, that he knew they wouldn't want to hear, like about Donald Trump. He kept his true feelings about Donald Trump secret for years, and then came out and supported the guy right before the election. And so I worry, like, again, use him for whatever you can, but he's a guy that has said what he needs to generate an audience for years. I don't know any reason to believe that he stopped doing that when he left Fox News. And I think he has been, as Woz pointed out, I mean, he's viciously racist. I think he's fairly anti-democratic. I think he's totally fine with a much more explicitly Christian form of government. And so all of that remains incredibly problematic and needs to be fought. I think that he's potentially a very dangerous person. Like, for instance, if he decided to run for office, I think he's somebody that needs to be taken very seriously for those reasons. But that said, he is influential. He does have a big audience. And I think that Anna, the way she presented the argument was very well calibrated to get through to the people who would listen to him.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say one thing that I don't know if people will find controversial. I don't care about the arc of his career. I care if he still has opinions that are problematic and that I'm gonna fight against, right? That I care a lot about. But if, he got to here in a weird way or in a disingenuous way or in a wrong way, well, if he got to the point where he's saying, let's stop the genocide and let's release the Epstein files and the American people are getting screwed and we should relieve credit card debt, I don't really care how he got there. I care that that's what he's telling his audience. I care that we agree on that. And I care, and I would love to get those things done. Whether any of us on the right or left is gonna get it done, it's a different matter. Woz, last word.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much as I think Tucker, like, again, there's a lot of, this guy has a massive audience. Like, there are many Americans who agree with the dude's message, right? And I choose not to be like deathly afraid or like, completely repulsed by the existence of these people. And all I would say is why Tucker Carlson is pretty dangerous is that I think an actual actual right-wing populist message, which is bigger government, social safety net for people, married with an insane xenophobic immigration policy, lock down the border, deport people, I think that would be massively popular. And I think that is pretty scary when you talk about Tucker Carlson. All that other stuff, I don't really get too excited about.
Yeah, actually, I lied. I'm gonna say one last thing. So I think that part of the reason why, as Woz was talking, I realized part of the reason why I'm not as bothered by, hey, talking to people who don't agree with you, is because I grew up Muslim in this country. Like, if I eliminated everyone who had stereotypical ideas about Muslims in their heads, I'd be talking to the wall. Right, so like I lived in a situation where I was forced to talk to people who had completely crazy ideas about Muslims my whole life. Not everybody, not most people, but was there a ton of people who thought, if I said to, oh, how dare you, you Islamophobe, blah, 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 I'd have eliminated for at least 40% of the population, I don't know. So to me, talking to someone who has wild, crazy ideas, even about you, is Tuesday. So what? Then what happens? And then you know what I do usually with those folks is I get them to realize, oh my God, it turns out Muslims are human beings. Okay, well, we made a little progress that day, okay? And that's how you make progress, by not sitting in your cave. Okay, that's my opinion. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.